Hi there, it's Carol C.C. Miller, your positivity trainer, peace activator, and global hugger, coming to you for our next live session where we're offering opportunities to heighten your celebrations and lessen your sorrows. I am so excited today because what I thought was going to be an interview has turned into a whole big series of things that we're going to do together. And I just want to give a little background on how it even started. Yesterday, a friend of mine had posted a comment on I call it the big U. She said the universe. She said, ask the universe to have perfect people to show up for you in your life and then be awake to see them come. And that was just yesterday. And then I don't even know how I'll introduce my guest here in a minute, or actually I'm going to say my co-host. Today she's the guest. Soon she's the co-host. And I asked Tina, let's talk about what we had thought about doing a month or so ago. And we talked for 2 hours, which was going to be like a very short conversation on, let's cover this tomorrow when we talk. And it was just so synergistic and just perfect that we came up with some great things that we want to do together here on Facebook Live and later in person as well. And I don't know how long I've known you, Tina.
I don't know. I think it's been a few years. I think we've been good friends, and I've seen your posts, and yeah.
It's more like we've known of each other and we're friends, but having sit-down conversations or anything like yesterday's 2 hours, I would have thought I've known her all my life, but it really is. We just pretty much got to know each other in a physical sense yesterday. And I saw a video of her. She did a live back in February of her story that she's going to share today. And it was so impactful and so profound. I asked her at that moment, and I had really just started doing lives myself. I had not interviewed anybody yet. And I'm like, I would love to have you on Positive Focus. And of course she said yes. And then yesterday, when I'm asking the universe for perfect people to come into my life, I reached out to Tina, and here we are. So I'm going to introduce you to Tina. There's way too many labels that I could give her of all beautiful things. She is a mom. She is a wife. She is a beautiful woman. She is an author. She is an artist. And she just has a magical story to share with us today and in future lives, as we're going to start a new series called This is Life, Beautifully and Messy. And what I'm so excited about this is I really think it's important for people to realize being positive does not mean everything is going well in your life, but it does mean that you're looking for that gem in the challenge. And, you're feeling your feelings and the sadness and the anger and all that. I always say, don't stuff your feelings because they're just going to come back in another way. But with Tina, every conversation we had yesterday, it was like just perfectly like what she said. I would have said the exact same thing. So we really do want to approach some difficult conversations that are going on perhaps in our own lives or in the world, but bring from a perspective of bringing love to it rather than bringing judgment and hatred and complaining about it. Because there's certainly things going on in the world that would be so easy to step into hatred and disdain for it. So I'm looking forward to all of our conversations. But today I'm really encouraged and excited for you guys to hear Tina's story on her journey of the power of forgiveness in her life and how she has healed her life through forgiveness. So, Tina, take it away.
Thank you, Carol. I'm so glad that we connected. And I've always followed your posts, and I've always been inspired by who you are as a person. So thank you for everything that you do. So, where to begin? I think let me go back a little bit and share that I was born in the Bahamas. I grew up here. My family is of Greek descent. As a child, I always imagined that I would help people. I always dreamed that my life would be filled with, doing good for others, and I wanted to be like Mother Teresa. That was my, that was my icon, and I just imagined that there was nothing else in my life that I could do. And I got married young to my amazing husband, Curtis. We had children at a young age, but in my 20s, I realized that I wasn't really living what I felt I was supposed to be living. I wasn't helping anyone. And in fact, my life felt quite shallow, really. And I felt that deeply. And so when I was 29 years old and pregnant with my daughter, Mia, I felt like something was about to shift and change. I began immersing myself into many authors and speakers that inspired me, and I began to realize that life was shifting, and I was starting to feel that perhaps maybe my purpose was sort of it was making sense to me, and I had this sense that, you know what, I know what it is I want. And so I was on this great path. I'm about to have my daughter. I'm full term.
You know what I wanted to say, Tina? It sounds interesting because it's like here you're birthing a child, and it also sounds like you're birthing what your intention was to do in life. So I just think that's really amazing.
And I should also say that, it's a prayer that I've always prayed as a child. And even at that very point in time, I was saying constantly throughout my day, God, teach me what I need to know. Lead me to the people, places, and experiences that will help me to do and be everything that I'm supposed to do and be in this world.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I'm pregnant with Mia. I was on bed rest for almost 3 months. It was a very difficult pregnancy. I had preterm labor. But it was it was a blessing because I got to spend all this time with my daughter. I got to spend quiet time meditating, just praying and thinking about my life and going deep and just having a new vision for my life and what it was that I wanted. So,
now, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Where you're saying, that you're with the 3 months and that you're praying and meditating. Mm-hmm. It would be very easy for it to be a difficult pregnancy to go into worry about it. Did you deal with worry, or did you stay out of that through meditation and prayer?
Mm-hmm. It was definitely, I had my moments. I definitely had points in my pregnancy where I would just cry and cry because I feared losing her. There were so many moments. I mean, I had preterm labor at 6 months, and, being in the Bahamas, that we don't always have all the facilities that you would have in the States. And so there was a real fear. But at the time I was really listening to Wayne Dyer and a lot of my favorite authors. And one of the people that I listened to was Sobonfu Somé. I'm sorry, my phone keeps ringing. Sobonfu Somé. And she talks about the Dagar tribe and how every child that comes into this world comes with great purpose. And she said that it's really important that when a mother has a child, that she think of what that purpose might be. She not only think about it, but she has to align with the child's spirit. She really has to go deep and say to that child, what is it that you are coming into this world for? And then name that child accordingly. And for Sobonfu Somé, her name means keeper of old rituals and traditions. And so that's why she was named. And in fact, that is what she does in this life today. So I kept talking to Mia and I kept saying, why are you coming? What is it that you have come into this life to do? And I kept hearing, I'm coming to teach. I'm coming to show. And so I would get out, my name book, and I kept looking through and I'm looking for names that mean teacher, and I couldn't find anything. But every time I would sit still and just be quiet with it, I kept hearing Mia, Mia. And I looked at the meaning. It just, at the time, it didn't really mean much. And in Greek, like I said, I'm of Greek descent. It means one, but still, it didn't really have any significant meaning to me at the time, but it felt right. And so as we were getting to the point where, I had made it, I got through those 3 months and I felt this relief. Oh my God, like I can't believe we're here. I can't wait to see her face. I can't wait to meet her. It was the most exciting time of my life. And the doctor had said to me, I think we should induce. I think we should go early because she's big. And, Carol, I had that gut sense, that feeling inside. I wanted to say, no, I'd love to go natural. But in my mind, I was thinking I didn't want to make things difficult for her. I had called her 1,000 times in the middle of the night. And, in my mind, I just thought, if it makes her comfortable, if it's better for her, okay, I'll just do it. And so I agreed to be induced. And what happened was my uterus hyperstimulated. I was given a drug. The drug is widely used. And in fact, it's, the effect that it has is it makes your contractions violent. It's called Cytotec. It's not actually for induction of labor. However, it is used off-label, and if you go in at 6 o'clock in the morning, by 6 o'clock in the evening, you should have a baby. And unfortunately, in my opinion, too often in our world, people just want what's easy and fast. And so I see more and more people are being induced, and that's a whole other topic. We'll save that for another day. But anyway, my uterus hyperstimulated and tore from top to bottom, front and back. While I was literally bleeding to death, my daughter was hanging on to life and trying to survive as her cord pulled away from the wall of my uterus. And essentially she suffocated and she died before she took a breath in this life. And so there began my world being turned upside down, inside out, and
as the pain, just like your uterus ripped open.
Yeah, literally, yeah. And, there may be some people out there who have lost a child. There may be people who have experienced a lot of trauma in their life or pain. And I can tell you, I had never, ever experienced pain like this in my life. You feel that pain in every part of your body, heart and soul. You feel it in your fingers, your toes, your heart. Imagine, if I can describe it, imagine the feeling that you have when you're feeling fear. Imagine what you're feeling when you're nervous, when you have butterflies in your stomach. Imagine the feeling when you're feeling hopeless. Imagine every negative feeling you can imagine, and then combine that together times 1,000. That's what you feel every second, every minute of every day. And you just wonder how on earth you're going to survive this. How are you going to get through it? And you're literally putting one foot in front of the other, taking 1 minute at a time. But Carol, I had a beautiful son who was 3 years old at the time. I had a husband who adored me. I had family and friends who wanted to help me, and they didn't want to see me in pain, but obviously you got to go through it.
Yeah.
No way out. Yeah. But I knew that I had to also pick myself up, and I had to do what I was learning from all of my spiritual teachers. And that was that I began to implement certain principles into my life. And I started.
When did you start that, Tina? Did you, like you said, you had to pick yourself up? Was it days, hours, months, years?
Immediately, because, and it's up and down and all around. You feel like it's a roller coaster. But when you have a child, that's depending on you, yeah. I would say that my greatest fear at that time was for him. How is he going to survive? He was, so excited for his baby sister. He helped me to make up her room, and he put all his favorite toys in her crib. And, and so I had to be there for him, and I had to make sure he was okay. Yeah. And so I had lots of signs immediately from Mia. I mean, immediately I felt her spirit. And she began to talk to me and to give me signs and messages that were really important for my growth and for my survival, really. And one of the most important messages she gave me came through a dream. And in that dream, I learned that the most important thing for me to put my attention on would be love. I had to bring the energy of love to everything. I had to bring that to the words that I spoke. I had to bring that to the thoughts that I had. I had to bring that to every aspect of how I shared my story with myself and with others. Now, it's not to say that immediately I became this beacon of absolute love, and no, it's up and down. And there were times when, well, let me tell you, when I found out that she died, immediately I blamed myself. I was told that her elbow tore my uterus. I was told that I had a weak spot, that my uterus just basically fell apart. And so as a woman, as a mother, I felt like I had failed. I felt as though I could not protect my own child, that I was a failure and that I killed her. And so I carried that trauma, that pain deep inside. And I remember even saying to my husband, "You should leave me." And he looked at me and he said, "Why? Why would you say that?" And I said, "Because I think I killed our daughter." And that's really hard. But it's a reality. And I know that many people who experience child loss can find so many different if onlys and blame themselves,
Oh, absolutely.
But when I found out that the drug was a huge part of why she died, and that perhaps, let me say perhaps, there was medical negligence involved in this, all of that shifted, and suddenly I became really angry. And I started to witness parts of myself that I didn't like. I started to feel intense. I felt really, really awful feelings towards the doctor, towards all the people that I felt had covered things up. And, my records no longer existed. Where were they? There were so many things. I felt like everyone was against me. And I struggled every day with feelings of hatred, revenge, feelings of just at everything you could imagine that's ugly. I felt it. I was it, and then whenever I could, I would reach for love. And then I started to hear more from my daughter, and I started to understand that it was really important that I bring gratitude into my life. Because if I couldn't find something to be thankful for, then the pain and the ugliness of this would swallow me up. So often I felt like I was in this deep, dark, black ocean, and the waves were just over and over smashing me, and I felt like there were all these dangerous things underneath this ocean that could at any time pull me under. That's what death felt like for me. That's what the pain of losing my daughter felt like for me. And so when I could feel gratitude or love or something that felt holy, I would hold on to that with every bit of my body, heart, and soul, because that was my everything. But I knew I needed to keep going. And so I continued to go to workshops in the States, and I started to listen to audio tapes morning, day, and night, and music that lifted my spirits and that infused my cells with love and beauty and God, and I went to a Hay House conference, I Can Do It. And Wayne Dyer had introduced us to Immaculée Ilabigisa. And thank you, Wayne Dyer, because that meeting changed the course of my life forever. For those of you who don't know her, Immaculée Ilabigisa has a powerful, amazing story of forgiveness. And I needed to know how she forgave. I needed to know what she did, because she had experienced the genocide in Rwanda, where more than, I think it was 56 members of her family had been brutally slaughtered. Over 1 million innocent men, women, and children had been killed.
And didn't she hide in the bathroom for days, or I forget how long it was? But
Immaculée and 7 other women hid in a tiny bathroom in the pastor's house for 90 days, while hundreds of men, literally hundreds of men, through the course of the 90 years, would come into that house, tearing it to pieces, looking for them because they had heard 7 women had come into the bathroom. Into his house, but never came out. So they were sure that these girls were being hidden, and they wanted to find them so that they could kill them. But the pastor had moved a bureau to hide the door, and miraculously, most perfectly, it hid that door. So
Wow.
no one never knew that they were there. But if you can imagine the fear that they felt on the other side in that bathroom as men would come with machetes wanting to chop them to pieces. And
How
they
do you get quiet when they're that scared?
There were times when they would pass out from the fear. They would tremble. And I remember immaculately, this image stuck with me because she said it felt like 1,000 needles were piercing her at that time, and that she couldn't even swallow because there was no saliva in her throat to swallow. And in those times, she would just pray and pray. And sometimes she would just wake up and realize that they had gone, but she was still there. She was still alive. And so her story inspired me. Her story went deep inside of me and told me that there was hope, that there was more possible in this life than I was even aware of. And I went to a second workshop of hers on healing and forgiveness. And I'll never forget, there was a woman, Cindy, who at the end of the workshop, she was very bubbly and happy. And I wasn't feeling so bubbly and happy at the point in time, but she jumped up and she said, you know, in her Southern accent, I can't do it, I won't try, but she said, you know, y'all, she says, who wants to go to Rwanda? And I remember saying, you must be crazy. There's no way in hell I would go to that place, you know? And for some reason I walked up and I put my name on that paper, and I just put my name down and I said, well, y'all have a good time in Rwanda, but that's not for me. So I kept getting the updates, and literally I think it was 2 weeks before the trip, she sent a mass email and said, you know, can everyone pray for us? We've got a group of 8 people, and, you know, this is what we'll be doing, and so on. But as I read that, I thought, oh my God, I'm supposed to be on this flight with them to Rwanda. I'm supposed to go on this trip. But the reality was I have a son at home, and my husband's going to think, are you crazy? Why are you going to Rwanda? And who knows what the rest of my family would think. But I had to go. I knew it. And so I didn't want to hear my husband say, are you crazy? No, you can't go. Or, you know, what are you thinking? So I wrote a quick little email and I said, sweetheart, this is like 100 Super Bowls for me. This is like, you can imagine any sporting event, you know, this just like that. And within 2 minutes, he just wrote back and he said, baby, you got to go. This is for you. Just do it. And at the time we were broke, we didn't have any money, we were struggling, and, you know, whatever, we found it and we went. And that trip changed the course of my life forever, because it's where I realized the power of stories and the power that exists in every single human being to heal, to rise up, to become something new, and also to forgive.
So what do you mean the power of stories?
Every time you share your story, and every time you are witness to the story of someone else, something happens. I believe those stories go deep into your heart. They move, they go throughout your body, and help you to shift your perspective of what's possible. If someone could experience genocide, be witness to their own family members being brutally massacred, and yet they are able to talk about love, compassion, kindness, and they're able to sit side by side with the person who has harmed their family members, who even tried to kill them, and say, this here is my best friend. We love each other now. It's been 10 years, but we have found a way to forgive and move through this together. Oh my God, isn't anything possible?
Well, and I think just like we were speaking on the phone yesterday, when you just mentioned Rwanda and the millions who died, it's harder to get a feeling for it. But when you talk about Immaculée or a personal story and you can put a face to the situation, then passion and love and forgiveness and anger or whatever can live there, because you can identify with the person. Like I always tell people, rather than seeing the world as 8 billion people, see it as one person 8 billion times. Because the more we can see the person and take them out of the ideology or their religion or their, whatever, then we're able to connect more with them. So
yeah, and that's really what I learned, that you can hear numbers, 1 million people died, but until you go through the memorial sites and you see the crosses, or you actually see the bones. I mean, in many cases, there are areas where they leave the bodies, the bones of the dead there with their stories. And when you are there and you connect with that, and you touch that with your heart and soul, you can't be the same person again. And I realized that this is where healing was going to happen. Person-to-person connection, really connection to life,
Yeah.
When you connect to someone's story, when you connect to even, an animal, and what animals are going through and how they survive and live and thrive, we're all connected. And so what we do to each other, what we experience as a people, it impacts us all. And therefore, I realized, if you don't mind, if I can share a story, because it was a story that profoundly changed my perspective of us and them, and
Yes, please.
to realize that it's us. I had asked, on my second trip to Rwanda, I had connected with someone by the name of Pastor Deo Gashagasa. He was, to me, one of the most amazing people. He still is, in my mind. He lost over 75 family members, and he was one of the first of the Tutsis, which was the tribe of people that were, the majority of people that died in the genocide. But shortly after the genocide, he fasted because he wanted to understand why this genocide happened. And he heard nothing the first day. The second day, he heard nothing. And on the third day, he heard a calm, still voice that said, go into the prisons and talk about love and help people to reconcile. He said he realized in that moment that Rwanda could never heal, that there would never be peace if they could not reconcile, and if the people could not forgive. And so he began going into the prisons and talking about love and talking about forgiveness. And he was one of those amazing people that set up the reconciliation villages, which is where victims of genocide actually live side by side with perpetrators of genocide. I wanted to experience this place that so many people had told me about. And so the first reconciliation village I went to, we sat in a circle with victims of genocide and the killers. I didn't know who were the killers. I didn't know who were the victims, but one by one, each of them shared their stories.
Wow.
I never imagined that I could sit side by side with one who had committed such horrific atrocities and actually begin to feel my heart open. And I know that even as I say that, there will be people in our audiences, people who may judge that, or who might say, are you crazy? What's wrong with you? I will say, however, that during that time, I continue to pray and say, God, teach me what I need to know. Lead me to the people, places, and experiences that will help me to do and be everything that I'm meant to do and be in this world. But I wanted to understand, God, how do you love? How do you see each and every one of us in this world? Teach me, show me. And so as my experiences began to unfold, and as I traveled through these different places, that experience in that reconciliation village was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had. Pastor Deo asked at the end of it for each and every one of us to look deeply into each other's eyes. And he said, tell me what you see. And so if you can imagine, I saw killers facing victims, like this close to each other, looking deeply. And then they all said, they all had this realization. And I didn't really at that point know what it was they saw, because I actually wasn't one that was looking into the eyes, but I was being witness to this process. And he says, "What do you see?" And one of them, I'll never forget, she had explained that this man had killed 5 of her family members. But she looked into his eyes and she said, "I see my reflection in his eyes." And then he said, "What do you see?" And he replied, "In her eyes, I see my reflection." And so Pastor Deo said, "Can you not then see? I am in you, you are in me. We are in each other. What you do to each other, you do to yourself. To kill another, you are killing a part of yourself. To love a person is to love yourself." It was that moment, Carol, that beautiful moment, that I sat with tears falling and I realized, it was my daughter, Mia, that brought me to this place. And her name means one. And it was her great, beautiful, profound, amazing purpose to help me to understand that we are all one. We are all connected. And as much as I don't want to see myself in a killer, if we are to remove the garbage, that I call it, that covers the most beautiful parts of your heart, deep down in there is that spark of light, and that is what we are all connected to. That was the beginning of my journey to understanding forgiveness, and the journey continues. But it took me 5 years to get to the place where I could actually feel in my heart that I could completely and wholly forgive anyone that I had blamed for the death of my daughter. It took me 10 years to forgive myself. And that's a whole nother topic.
We'll get into that for sure at some point. Do you have an idea of why you were able to forgive the other before you could forgive yourself?
That could, well, I could say that could take a lifetime. No, I don't think so. I think I know that right now. It goes back to self-love. I thought that I loved myself. There was nothing about my life that ever told me I did not love myself. But I realized when I began painting about 1.5 years ago, and that's a story again that we'll talk about in future shows. But I realized that was the one thing that I know God led me to show me and to teach me how to be gentle on myself and how to love myself bigger than I have ever loved myself, more than I could have imagined that I could love myself. And without even trying, it was no longer an issue. It was no longer something that I said, okay, today I'm going to forgive myself. It was a realization one day where I woke up and I said, that doesn't feel the same anymore. And then I just started to understand that I woke up every day feeling really happy and really just vibrant. And it was such a big shift that I recognized it right away. And I said, I have made a turn. I am no longer there. I am here. And it was the best feeling I could ever describe to you. And it's still a process and it's ongoing. And here I am.
And here you are. I'm so grateful for you sharing this story, because I know there's such power, as you mentioned, in storytelling and putting a face to grief. It helps others through it. Usually what I do when I go live is I give some tips on whatever the topic is today. So do you have some tips, especially for people, and it may not be somebody who's lost a child, but somebody who's dealing with a loss, ways for them to start moving through the process with a little bit more grace and ease?
Yes, I would love to share some tips. I would suggest that when you're going through any challenge or anything that's painful or difficult, become really conscious of your thoughts and your words, because what you think about and what you speak becomes your everyday reality. So while it's important for you to feel don't block the pain, feel it. Feel every emotion, but it's also important that you pick yourself up and you find ways to infuse love, gratitude, kindness, and giving into who you are. That is the way that you think, the way that you speak. When you become aware and you start affirming your life, start speaking what it is you want, and be aware that when you're not speaking about what it is that you would like to see in your world, but perhaps you're coming from the negative and you're speaking about the fear or the hopelessness or the things that you don't want for your life, gently just say, it's okay, speak to yourself, it's okay, let's just turn that around and let's say that again, or let's rethink that. That is what ultimately was the beginning and the entire process for me, where I realized how empowered I could be and how much greatness there actually existed inside of me, and how I had everything that I needed inside of me to heal myself and actually heal others and help others. And so just know that you can heal, and just know that whatever you're going through, it can pass, it will pass, and you will grow from your pain. You will find your courage and strength. You just have to find your way through it, and just know that it's a process.
Well, and I love that example because I think, first of all, everything is a choice. So some people, and it's always funny to me, like I'll post an image on the Positive Focus page about choices, and then I'll have several comments, well, that doesn't mean it's an easy choice. I'm like, I never said it was an easy choice, but I did say it's a choice. So when we're going through those deep losses and things, it is a choice to step more into love and away from fear. And when I'm coaching people, not necessarily on loss, but just about fear and love, they always think I'm crazy because I'm like, congratulate yourself when you're catching those negative thoughts. Because when you're aware of the feeling, then you can either choose to have a pity party, and that's fine if you're doing it with awareness, or you can choose to grow from it. So really that awareness of how you feel is so crucial to stepping more into love. So it's like, pat yourself on the back that you've just realized that you've just spewed 3 sentences of negativity, because now you can change it because you're aware of it.
And if I can add to that, I will give you my example just because it's what I know. I remember when Mia died, it was literally, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after, and I was thinking about gratitude. And I was thinking, how do I bring gratitude into my life? And at that very point in time, I thought, happy? How can I be happy? How can I find anything to be thankful for that my daughter died? It's not fair. So I took small little steps because I knew the energy of gratitude would shift me, it would shift my heart, it would open it. So what could I do? What could I be thankful for? And I remember like it was yesterday. I looked at my arm and I said, thank you for the little tiny hairs on my arm. Thank you for this freckle. Thank you for my fingers. Thank you for my hair, for my, and I started to think of people that have been burned and don't have that. And people who can't walk. And so I started to say, thank you for my feet. And I started to think of all the things that were in my life, the roof on my head. Thank you that I have a bed. And I would just begin a practice of morning, day, and night, just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Literally, I could just go on and on for a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And it would sometimes just put me in this trance, but oh my God, I would feel amazing after. And
honestly, that's what, sometimes when I'm stressed out about something, I always do appreciation and gratitude is definitely one of my practices. But sometimes in the moment where I'm just stressed out, rather than saying thank you to the sun or I just sit there and go, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And just even saying that word over and over again shifts me into a place of gratitude without saying thank you for my hair or my house or whatever, which I do daily. Thank you for this bed. I love this bed that I sleep in. So, but sometimes just those 2 words are so powerful without putting a reason behind them to be able to say thank you for that. I did have a question for you regarding when you started to step into gratitude and wanting to be happy, and could you be happy?
Yeah.
And obviously you were working on it and wanting to. Did you ever go through a guilt phase of like you weren't honoring Mia by being happy? I've heard so many people feel guilty about being happy after a big loss.
I will tell you the truth. It is very common for people to feel guilty. I was not one of those people, and probably because I had experiences with her in spirit world that were very profound. I would wake up in the middle of the night and begin writing, and I know it was coming from another place. I believe it was my daughter, and what she helped me to see and understand was, you're going to grow from this. Try. You're going to become something different today. Keep going. And so I knew that she wanted me to be these things. I knew she wanted me to be happy. And so if I could find my joy and if I could be these things, then I was doing an honor for her. I was making her purpose matter. You see, for me, my healing came by making meaning out of what happened. That's the hardest thing to do when you've lost a child or someone that you love or something terrible has happened. And I can only speak for myself. I don't want to speak for others. But what I do want to say is that for me, feeling that she had great purpose in this life helped me to know that I had perhaps a purpose myself, that I had to learn and grow. And I just want to add to that because I think it's important. When I talked about the ways that you speak and think, something that I had to realign very quickly was how I spoke about this. And for me, I recognized that when I spoke it's not fair, I'm so angry, life should never have given this to me, I'm a good person, that was necessary. I needed to go through that. You have to. It's human. But I also recognize the fact that when I said, I'm so blessed, I had this amazing daughter that I got to experience for 9 months, and she has great purpose in this life, and she's helping me. That would lift me up. So what I want to just say and what I want to perhaps leave with you is that, when you're going through something painful, feel everything. Don't block anything. When you block the fear, the pain, when you block all those things, then you don't feel the joy and the love and all the other stuff. So just feel it all.
And it comes back in a bigger, bolder way later. So
yeah, feel it all. Be gentle on yourself when you don't know how to get out of it, but just work with yourself. One little step at a time. Tweak this, change that. Just try to do the work when you can. And when you can't, just don't be hard on yourself. It's a process, so.
It's an amazing process. And just when you were talking, it made me think about the fact where you had talked to Mia prior to birth and that she was here to be a teacher, but you could not come up with the right word for teacher for her. But you knew when you were young, you were to be a teacher. And so coming up with the word one, and now you're teaching through her. So I just think it's so beautiful.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful.
So, I think, we could, as we did yesterday, we talked forever and ever and ever, and we have so many topics that we want to bring to you just to give people a different way to look at things. Because again, there are people who are losing babies or a 5-year-old or, whatever. There's tragedy that goes on in this world, yet there's also such deep beauty that is occurring at the exact same time as that tragedy. And you need to feel it if you're going through it personally. I think one of my biggest takeaways is when it's a tragedy worldwide, there's a different feeling than when it's a personal one. So when we own that tragedy rather than try to love through that tragedy, then, we're helping to keep that tragedy, we're refueling it, I guess I should say. So we're going to be talking about different topics like that. And we're going to talk about pure fun topics as well. It's not always going to be that deep, but it probably will be quite a bit. I'm just really excited to be able to bring some more love and some more light to things that is easy to go into the complaining mode. And I was talking to Tina yesterday, I'm like, I've been doing this work for about 10 years of solid doing this work. I've certainly been a fairly positive person all of my life. But I had told her before, in the past, I was the how dare they treat somebody that way person rather than how can I love them through it, knowing there are consequences. I'm by no means ever saying when somebody does something awful to themselves or another that there aren't consequences, because there certainly are. But that doesn't mean that I have to be that judge and jury for them. And to bring more compassion and love, I really do believe there's a tiny, tiny fraction of people in this world who are hardwired to hurt. Most people, in my opinion, and I think Tina agrees with me, it's coming from their own deep hurt. You know, hurt people hurt others. So we're going to have those conversations as well. So can you, again, what was your tip as far as feeling your way through that?
Just feel every emotion. You have to experience it and then become really conscious of your words and your thoughts, and take little steps or big steps if you can to use power words, as I call them, but to implement those principles into your life that will raise the energy and help you to feel good. And when, I always say, if you're spiritual, you might, relate to this, but I always say that when you're feeling good, I think Wayne Dyer said this, but when you're feeling good, you feel God. And that's what I have learned in my life, that when you raise the energy and you feel these positive things, you feel more aligned and connected to God or the spirit world or the universe, whatever it is that feels right for you. But some people say inner self, but just one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself with, oh my goodness, I'm in depression and I'm in grief and I'm in hatred and I'm in all these things. How can I feel joy and all this amazing, well, it's a big jump. Don't be hard on yourself. Just one step at a time. Just reach for those better feeling thoughts, and eventually you will find your own way through this. It's different for everyone.
It absolutely is. And I love that example, because I was that person years ago that when you were angry or in deep depression or really sad, I'm like, it's okay, life is good, be happy. And then I'm like, you can't, people wanted to slap me probably when I would say that, because that's just not where they were. So it's really about meeting people where they are, be gentle and loving them through it, because we're all on this amazingly beautiful, messy journey together. So the more we can, be compassionate towards each other rather than judging each other, it's going to be an easier road to take.
And what you just said about not judging other people, I want to add to that. That's so huge, because, we when we judge, we're actually judging ourselves. But really, it's such a low energy.
Yeah.
I learned that in my whole, on my travels to Rwanda. There's so many profound experiences that helped me to understand that. But I will say that in my 20s, I was very righteous. I was very judgmental. I remember just thinking sometimes, my poor husband's listening to this, I don't know if he is, but, if only he could do this my way, we would be so happy. If only he was exactly like me, we could just, wow, we would thrive, And I have come to realize, now I'm a little bit wiser.
Okay, that's still a little bit true that if they did it your way, it would be easier, just a little true.
Anyway, but it's true. Like there's no, stop the judging if you can, just if you're a big judger, okay, small steps. But if you can't, just nip it in the butt right now, today, make a commitment that, instead of looking at someone and quickly, saying a judgmental word, stop yourself. Is this coming from kindness? Is this coming from love? Is this compassionate? No, if it's not, let it go. Don't say it. Because what I have found is, over the 11 years since my daughter died, I have worked tremendously on that part of me. And I can tell you, I am a different person today than I was 11 years ago. I am so much happier. I'm feeling complete and whole. And for someone who, not only have I lost a daughter, I've had many other losses. I've had lots of difficult experiences. And there were times when I thought, why me? Why this again? How can I, but all to say is that as I stopped judging, started being kinder, started bringing more love into my life and compassion and giving, not only giving to others, actually even giving to myself. My God, your world opens up in ways that you just could never even imagine. I didn't know that there was so much bliss, but I feel joy. I feel it. I can't even describe it. But, if there's one last thing I can say, be gentle on yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that because I've always been hard on myself. So
that's one of the things I always say, because I'm not a big believer in using the word always or never, because I have done never before, but I do say never beat yourself up. Be as gentle as you can. And one thing I'd also like to add is, because we're both word sensitive people, which we're going to get into more conversations around the power of words. Yes. But even judgment, when you think judgment itself is not a positive or negative. If I'm saying, Tina, that you have a beautiful smile, I'm judging her, but it's a positive judgment. Yes. And so I'm all for positive judgment. So when you're sharing kindness with people, do it that way. But when you're finding yourself comparing yourself or judging, why are they wearing that outfit, or why are they doing that, or why is that person, when we're putting a negative connotation upon a judgment, that is when I look at myself and ask, why, what's important about that? And usually it's something that I'm judging about myself anyway. But unless there's a true reason that it needs to be said, and I've yet to find one that truly needs to be said that way, I can reframe it and say it in a different manner. But when you're putting someone else down, as Tina mentioned earlier, you're really lowering yourself as much, if not more, than you're lowering the person that you're talking about. So, and that goes for Facebook comments too. When you're doing your status updates, find some kindness and gentleness and compassion out there, because that has energy as well.
Absolutely.
So, Tina, in closing, share with people, I know that you have a recently released book and you're doing locally some book signings. And so I think everybody just needs to go to the Bahamas and visit Tina now, because...
Well, they're on Amazon, so they can order these books on Amazon.
Okay.
So this is my first book. You see that?
Yes.
It's called Fly My Love Fly. And I called it Fly My Love Fly because it was really, in a sense, me talking to myself. All these years, these voices told me why I can't live my dream. You can't do this, you can't do that. And now I'm saying to myself, this is the gentle, kind part of me saying, fly, my love, fly. You can do and be everything that you were meant to do in this life. And so in this book, I share principles for living your life at your highest potential. And some of those are kindness and love. But this is, can you see this? This is kind of how it looks inside. But,
yeah.
Just
beautiful picture.
This page has a positive life statement with an affirmation for living
your artwork. That's your artwork.
Yeah, so I started painting almost 2 years ago now, and it's been my absolute joy. And that goes to show I had no clue that I could paint. And if I could find, I painted in high school, but if I could find it, at 40, that, 20 years after not painting, that, oh my gosh, this is something I absolutely love, then so can you. Anybody can find the new joy in their life, but this is it. Fly, My Love, Fly. My second book that's just come out, it's called Inspired, and it's actually the workbook to Fly, My Love, Fly. And in this workbook, there's basically exercises that you can do every day to help implement those principles and lessons into your life. So writing exercises, meditations, visualizations, tips for how you can, bring more of that into your life. And so that's what I do. And I give talks and I give workshops and I paint and I travel the world, and life is good. And that's, yeah.
Life is beautifully messy. But I also wanted to mention that because Tina, she goes to a conference that I work at. This the next conference I'm not going to be at because I'm talking at another conference. But Tina is going to be at the International Women's Summit in Phoenix, May 4th through the 7th. And powerhouse women are there to, trying to think of some names, Lisa Lane, Elizabeth Gilbert,
Marianne Williamson, Sherry
Yeah.
Sonata, Melissa Harris Perry.
Yeah, so many, and it's just going to be a really,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
oh yeah, it's a powerhouse weekend. So if you're thinking about going, I'll post a link on how you could go there, and you'll be sharing your book and your artwork there. So definitely stop by and say hello to Tina. I will be in Santa Fe that weekend with Mike Dooley and the Train the Trainer conference, and I'll be speaking to the guests there. So I'll post information that it's Global Free Hug Weekend. As you know, I forgot to say it at the beginning, but I like to share hugs with people who are in need of a heightening of their celebrations or a lessening of their sorrows through a hug. So if you haven't left a comment of where you're joining us from, please do so, and I will come give you a virtual hug. So I'm going to be doing Global Free Hugs in Santa Fe. It might be our biggest group hug we've ever done, and I'm looking forward to that. And I think I have huggers on 4 continents right now, 11 countries and 17 U.S. states. So I'll post how you can join us. It's a simple way to spread kindness. I've been doing it for 9 years. And the stories, as Tina has talked about the power of stories, the stories I get from free hugs, they may just be a 2-minute conversation, but they really have impacted my life. Whereas Rwanda has been a huge influence for Tina, and she's got some hug stories that I can't wait to hear. We haven't discussed them yet. But the free hug movement has really changed my life, and to be able to see people and know that people want to be seen, they want to know that they matter, and they want to feel that they're heard. So that's one of the things that I do with Positive Focus and that Tina does in her work too. I'm so grateful for our collaboration on this. I look forward to however this journey takes us on what conversations, but there's going to be a lot of them, and they're all there to help heighten your celebrations and lessen your sorrow. So Tina, anything else you'd like to say in closing?
Yeah, just one more thing, because as you mentioned, the Women's Summit coming up, I just want to say that if you, well, you don't have to be going through anything. You're going to face challenges in your life, and but these are the types of conferences that I have gone to sometimes 2-3 times a year. These are the types of things that if you go to, you will never be the same again, because each of those speakers has a powerful story. And as I shared with you, that it's the power of those stories that shift and change you. Those amazing speakers will help to change your perspective of life and what's possible. So I highly recommend that, Carol, you'll put that link, correct? Yes? When you put that link there, please go to it, check it out, and treat yourself. Go to this event and any other events like it, because these are the events that grow you. Yeah,
absolutely. And the Mike Dooley event's the same thing. It's all law of attraction about infinite possibilities. So how you can live an infinite possible life. So you should either be in Phoenix or Santa Fe that weekend, or someplace in the world sharing a hug. Now, my free hug events is usually going out and hugging strangers, but send me pictures of you hugging your kids or you hugging your family or whatever, because it's really all about embracing you, embracing each other, and embracing the world, and bringing more kindness and love into the world. I don't know where this quote came from, but it's truly one of my favorites. And it's, the world does not need saved. It needs loved. And that's what will save the world. So I'll sign off with that one. Thank you for joining us. And if our tips and our conversation have helped, please feel free to share this. We will be back again next Tuesday. And I've told Tina, we very well may just pop in at some point when one of us has got something going on that we want to share on the fly. So we'll be back. If you have suggestions on what you would like to hear us talk about, you can post comments here or reach out to me on Facebook, and we will discuss those as well. Tina had mentioned, again, I forgot to bring this up, she's happy to answer questions, as am I. I'm still working on reading the comments as we talk, but I'll get better at it, I promise. But I will go back and comment now. We will also be having guests on in the future to share their stories with us, and life is pretty good, even the messy parts. So again, thank you so much, Tina. So grateful for you. And we'll talk very soon. So everybody have a great day. Share a kind word, share a kind hug, and just share something to yourself too. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.